Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com. Welcome to the podcast. This is your co-host, Seth Greene. Today, we have the good fortune to be joined by Alexandra Michelle Gonzalez of savvy-marketers.com. Alexandra, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Seth, for having me today.
It is our pleasure. Let's go back in time a little bit. How did you get started?
Well, I've been a marketer for almost 30 years, believe it or not. So I started very young my career, and I never thought of myself as being an entrepreneur. I've always been a marketer. I worked in different industries, from banking, I worked in ad agencies, I worked in the food industry, and then I went to consumer packaged goods, where I spent about 12 years of my career at Johnson & Johnson, living in different parts of the world, traveling all over the world, managing different roles, but mostly global roles during my 12-year tenure. And then I went to e-commerce, and I was leading as a chief marketing officer. I was in e-commerce, and one day I knew that I was pregnant. I had premature twins that I knew that was happening, and all doctors told me to abort. And I said, but are they okay? And they said, yes, for now. And I said, well, if they're okay and I'm okay, I guess I'm all they've got, literally, because they're inside of me. So that brought a sense of resilience in me that I never knew I had. I was always very business savvy as a marketer, growing brands and expanding them across the world, really focusing on very consumer-centric needs, addressing the needs of those consumers through better products, better communication, better services. But then after I had my twins, I fired all my doctors, ended up, getting steroids, gaining 50 pounds in 3 days, hospitalized just to develop their lungs. After they were born prematurely and they were okay, I put together my 5-year strat plan. I go to my board, I present, and I get approval in 30 minutes. And then I come back. I was on a business trip, and I come back and I tell my husband, I think that I'm done. I think that I did what I needed to do, and I think that I want to do something else. And he said, like what? And I said, well, I want to bring my expertise and my value to other companies while I'm also a mom. I said, well, if you do that, what would you name it? And I said, Savvy Marketers. And my husband just looked at me and said, you know what, honey, go for it. And 13 and a half years ago, I embarked on the biggest journey of my career, launching Savvy Marketers. And as you can imagine, it's very different when you have a business where you have resources coming from the corporation, etc., than building something from scratch. And I was able to build something from scratch, self-invest in it. So I grew little by little, I expanded. And now, 13 and a half years looking back, we started with AI in 2017, 8 years before people really started on AI, and we focused on neuroscience, on market research, really uncovering deeper truths, sentiments, emotions for ad testing, new product ideas, you name it. And I look back and I said, well, I'm glad that I made this change, that I took this leap of faith and built something that would have longevity.
Well, that is absolutely incredible. Congratulations. I am sure the longer version of that story could probably fill a book somewhere if it hasn't already. Who is an ideal client for savvy marketers now?
Well, it's interesting because we work with very different industries from banking to food to service. We do a lot of consumer packaged goods, we do a lot of startups, and we also do healthcare, pharma. But I would say that we are right now in a moment of uncertainty. I remember 30 years ago when I started as a marketer, everyone was obsessed with Y2K. Oh my gosh, we gotta be prepared. We gotta be prepared. And guess what? Companies were proactive, people were prepared, and nothing bad happened, right? So I think that, looking back 30 years ago, and then with the rise of the internet, then social media, then we had 9/11, then we had e commerce, then we had a pandemic, and now we're in the middle of tariffs plus AI, the what ifs. I say to people, we're all on the same plane. We're navigating winds of change, but we have to be very clear of where we want to go because yes, there's winds of change, there's a little bit of turbulence, but we're all on the same page, right? Like where we were 4 years ago when we were in the middle of lockdown, we didn't know what was happening with the pandemic, but we needed to stay resilient. We needed not to lose focus. So I would say my ideal client is those that are in that midst of uncertainty, that they're not sure of what they want to do or how to go about this moment, where we can help them either understanding their consumers and customer needs, really understanding in real time what impacts between prices, new communications, etc., will entail, but also very importantly, the challenge of what's happening with AI. Because people think AI, oh, it's really cool, generative AI, we've been on it for 2 years. But generative AI, it's changing everything. It's changing the way we work, the way we search, the way we buy, the way we communicate and advertise, etc. And there's some real implications and guardrails, right? From an employment standpoint, as an employee, our jobs are going to change. So how do we become proactive? How do we understand the role of AI, leverage it to become more efficient and effective, yet making sure that we're using the most important muscle beyond our heart, which is our brain? Because we have to think for ourselves. We have to see the big picture and not lose focus, because that's required now more than ever for talent. So navigating how to best approach AI tools in the workplace, how to leverage that as marketers. Look at what's happening when you look at Ad Age and you look at all these agencies coming together. Many are going to disappear, some are going to be merging with each other, but a lot of them have to reshape the way they do business, right? So there's something very clear about AI. When you think about it creatively, yes, it's going to give you different things, but the AI will be good depending on the prompts that you give the AI, right? It depends on the question and the instruction that you're giving. The one thing that is very clear and it's crucial for marketers, business owners to understand is whatever you prompt on AI, if it's going to give you a logo or something creatively, guess what? It's not trademarked. So we have to be very careful on how we're using AI and think about the legal implications. That's why guardrails, think about ethical AI. It's going to be very, very important. So my ideal client are those that are right now, oh my gosh, I'm about to build a business. I was just launching a business, or I have the established business, and I don't know what the implications are going to be moving forward, how consumers are feeling, what is happening, what is shaping the landscape. And the beauty with trends is that they're constantly changing and evolving. So being at the forefront is critical, and that's where we're here to help.
Awesome. What are some of the biggest challenges that you're helping those clients solve?
So some of the biggest challenges is, first and foremost, research, understanding what's happening with my business, what's happening with my category, and how can I be proactive to continue to drive growth, right? So do I have to shift my strategy? Was I expanding to other markets? How does that look now? If I am planning on expanding to more markets, what are those implications? So those are some of the things that we're helping some of our clients as they expand to other markets, or as they're launching new brands or new products. How do you best launch with excellence. Thinking about that we live in an era of experience where consumers are not sitting around like in the 1950s waiting for us to communicate with them, right? Understanding that there's over 50 million influencers, that people are buying differently. People are navigating online entirely different. When you think about Gen Alpha and Gen Z, they're multi screens. They have a very short memory, right? We know that for millennials and Gen X, we had less than 8 seconds of attention span, slower and shorter than a goldfish. For Gen Zennials or Gen Z and Gen Alpha, I could tell you it's about 2 seconds. So we have to be very smart. We have to be very pragmatic into what we are communicating to consumers. And we have to bring value to your retailers, no matter if it's e-commerce, no matter if it's in store, right? So or online. And think about consumers are looking for better experiences. It's not about being cheap, it's value for money. That's one of the most important trends because people think about luxury brands. Why do they continue to grow? Well, because it's not about being cheap. It's about giving a value that's for me, that it's addressing my needs, and that we're addressing it in a way that it's different to anybody else. Because when you become a Me Too proposition, then you know what? Maybe you compete in price. Maybe that helps you retain or keep share. But in the long run, will you survive? Not really. So helping our clients navigate these times is crucial, either with innovation, with communication. What media channels should we use? What type of messages should we use? And then how do we uncover those deeper consumer wants and needs, those eureka moments that are out there?
That makes a lot of sense. Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
Well, I can tell you that one of the things that I'm most passionate about is when we do research, right? Putting it at the forefront, putting consumers at the center of everything we do. And it could be consumers, it could be health professionals. We work across different categories. It could be retailers, customers, as a whole, but really putting your customer, your consumer at the center of everything you do and really understanding their wants and needs is what I'm most passionate about. And what makes us different is very clear. We bring neuroscience in a way that we have our multidimensional approach with our proprietary AI. So we're certified in design thinking by Stanford. So we're all about creative problem solving, very strategic. But more importantly, we're certified in neuroscience by MIT. So we're uncovering sentiments and emotions in real time. Why? This is very important because in the past, Seth, you would do research. If people liked it, you would hear it. You would know, okay, they liked it or they didn't like it. But we know from neuroscience, Seth, and this is priceless, that only 7% of what people say they actually mean. So what happens with the 93% on how they're really feeling, right? Think about elections, for example. Why were people so surprised this last 3 election cycles? Because they're just listening to what people say, not what they really mean, right? So uncovering deeper truths based on sentiments and emotions, that's what we do. So we're looking at, and we know that 55% of human emotions come from facial expressions and gestures. That's unconscious. That's something that we do, right? There are also cultural nuances like moving my hands. I'm Latin, so I move my hands a lot. And I raise my voice because I'm passionate. But don't confuse passion with something negative or anger. So we know that 55% of emotions come from facial expression and gestures, but 38% come from the tone of voice, how the words are said. So our algorithm looks at 28 different cultural nuances, and we really look at the biology of voice, and we encompass and connect that to emotions. So imagine looking at facial expression and gestures, the biology and the tone of voice, and then we look at what they actually said and we connect all the dots. So that it helps our clients make better decisions, go with the right communication, with the right approach, with the right products, with the right benefits, with the right name, with the right price. So it helps you bring real value for money. Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel and figuring it out, we leverage neuroscience in a way that is really meaningful and inexpensive.
That is incredible. Well, we greatly appreciate your time. We know it's incredibly valuable. For our folks who are watching and listening and want to learn more, where is the best place for us to send them?
You can send them to www.savvy-marketers.com or info@savvymarketers.com. We're more than delighted to answer any questions. We're going to be sharing very soon the latest of the latest global trends report, looking at over 100,000 consumers. So it's going to be a very rich research across categories. So we're going to be sharing that, and people can download the snapshot for free. And if there's anything that we can do for you or for your audience, we're here to help in any way we can. I always say that for us, success comes from our client's success, not the other way around.
Awesome. This has been Seth Greene for Sharkpreneur with Alexandra Michelle Gonzalez from savvy-marketers.com. Alexandra, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Seth. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. We'll talk to you or see you next time.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.